I'm ready.
Yes.
Okay. Yo, yo, yo. Okay. My dudes.
Please don't intro with yo, 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 my dudes. First of all, my dudes is very clearly a me thing. And second of all, you're going to sound like the kind of like the math teacher who comes in and like sits the wrong way in the chair and puts his hat on backwards. He's like, I'm here to rap about drugs, kids.
Real talk. Hey everybody, I'm Charles from ComicWeek, and I'm here with Alex from Alpha Comics, and we have poured through this week's new comic books. We have a lot to show you this week. Prepare to empty that bank account, open that wallet, and carry home, get a skid loader to take home all the cool comics you're going to get this week. Quite a lot of number ones, marquee titles from DC and Marvel. And what are you going to start your week with?
So I'm going to start with talking about, one of the things that they're doing that's not a whole lot of number ones right now is they're still doing those Year of the Villain like flippy change covers that like it is one cover one way and then when you open it it's a completely different yet similar cover. And they've been doing a bunch of these, and again, I think we talked about this last time that they were doing this, that they're the same price as the main cover, and that shocks me because the cardstock variants that they've been doing have always been like $1 more, but these, which are like significantly more elaborate, are the same exact price.
And you know, it's funny, Year of the Villain started with a 25-cent comic, and boy, have they made you pay up for that.
Yeah, if you wanted to get into Year of Villain, first hit's free, but then you gotta pay.
So speaking of drugs, this week, we have a reprint of the notorious Green Lantern Green Arrow title, The Shocking Truth of Drugs,
The Shocking Truth of Drugs. So back in the day, like pretty much everybody jumped onto the Just Say No war on drugs because it made them seem like it was really good for their image. It made everybody seem super kid-friendly. And we got some weird comic book stuff out of it, like this one.
My word! Speedy is a junkie.
Which, there's so much to unpack in that cover, especially because, like, Hal Jordan is just this horrible entity of judgment, where he's like, what do you say about that? And, like, Green Arrow's just shocked, and I'm like, there are several things to unpack with just everything going on in this cover, and the issue itself is just as bad and arguably more confusing.
What the hell is going on in this panel?
Yeah, there's so many things that are just ridiculous about this issue. So it's one of those things that like everybody really tried to make it like super kid friendly and fight the drugs, but really they just sort of made it absolute insanity because they tried to make it like this kind of thing like if you take one marijuana your head will explode, and it was like, well, I mean, I'm sure that's thematic for comic books.
Real talk.
Oh God, no.
All right. Absolute Carnage number 5. This series ends with a battle to the death with Venom and Carnage. This has been a huge series this summer.
It has been. I've had a lot of subscribers who have been really solid on the series. I mean, it's really hard. It's really rare to find a title that like everybody is not only excited about the main series, but they're also excited about like all the tie-ins and all the extra stuff. And I've had a few people who've been really into the Absolute Carnage stuff, which it's rare to find a title that people are like that into the whole aspect of it.
Well, you had the Carnage covers, which are big throughout the summer, and you also have the Absolute Carnage, one-shots with the different major characters. We have one this week with Captain Marvel, we'll show later. But I think overall, I mean, I felt that the War of the Realms was a little bit confusing, the way they handled that.
You are not wrong.
Of course, comparing that to Heroes in Crisis, what DC was doing at the time, I think War of the Realms probably won that battle on the newsstands. But I think the Absolute Carnage stuff has been like just perfectly done. That and the House of X, Powers of X, X-Men stuff. I think Marvel's
so much X-Men right now.
Marvel's really turned it on the last like 5 or 6 months.
Marvel's really been cranking out the content. I mean, I say hit or miss on some of that because I felt like War of the Realms was just so much that it was really hard to keep up with all of it. Whereas Absolute Carnage, I feel like, is a little bit more manageable, and I don't know why I feel like it's more manageable. Maybe it's because there's not quite as many, like, weird crossover, like, you need to get, like, issue 37 of another title. You can just kind of get the Carnage ones.
Right. Well, it's interesting because I think you have a really good perspective on that too, as somebody who's like a tabletop, sort of like a game maker. That the World of Realms seems like that is a lot of world building, but I think too much world building can be pretty confusing.
I mean, too much world building that requires you to take too many left turns. Like Absolute Carnage, if you want to just pick up like each issue of Absolute Carnage, including again the last one, which is coming out this week. Then you can get the full extended story. Whereas I feel like with War of the Realms, it was like, all right, cool. So you can read this story, and then you got to go over here and read this story, and then you got to go over here and read this one, and then you got to get this one random issue of this unrelated series that does have a tie-in, and it's like, guys, help! What do? How read? Like, I think that was something that Dark Knight's Metal did that was a little bit crazy sauce. Like they had like all these random issues that were just like, hey, by the way, this random issue of Teen Titans is also going to be a tie-in for Dark Knight's Metal, and it's like, well, all right then, I'll just add Teen Titans to my list of series I don't usually read.
Well, speaking of like world building and sort of getting readers thinking about these characters in a different way, DC's really embraced the difference between the Black Label titles with its characters and its main line.
It has.
Of course, this branding could have hit the iceberg with the Brian Azzarello controversy with Batman.
The first appearance, yes.
Right. But this week we have two titles from the DC Black Label. We have the Von Freeze, the honorific, of course, of Dr. Freeze, Batman villain, and we also have Question. And so, you have the larger format book, which actually I'm a big fan of because I like the way these stories jump off the page. And then, this is sort of a smaller
it's standard
version,
size.
standard size, right? But, you're looking at like high quality presentations, a little bit more mature story. These are not like exploitative. It's not like gratuitous violence. It's just kind of like a way for them to grow the story up a little bit without losing the flavor of the actual superhero universe.
I mean, one of the things that I think that they're doing a really good job by keeping everything really separate is they're able to take a lot of risks that they wouldn't be able to take in their normal modern canon. They're able to just be like, hey, this is gonna, like, I mean, in the, Last Night on Earth stuff, I think we're far enough out that I can do the spoiler of like, Joker's head is in a jar on the hip, and it's like, you couldn't get away with that in like main storyline.
But that was actually super cool because it reminds you how interesting and pivotal character Joker can be and how funny he can be when they write him funny.
I definitely like him more in that than I have in a lot of the stuff. Like in a lot of the Justice League stuff that I've been reading him in, I'm just kind of like, man, can we get like Scarecrow or somebody in, break this up a little bit?
Right. But anyway, so these two titles came out, and how are your customers dealing with the Black Label stuff? Has it been popular?
The Black Label stuff overall has actually been really, really popular. I have a couple of people who have it written only, like, grab everything Black Label, anything related to Black Label. I actually have had a couple of people who have praised the larger format of some of the titles, and I have other people who are like, this is the worst thing to store in the universe.
Right. Well, I had to go out and get those magazine size things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does cause a question. And the other thing is, like, I feel like if you're one of those like super like OCD collectors, you gotta get two, and even though they're more expensive, because one's going to get your handprints all over it, and then
the matte finish of it really does like cling fingerprints.
And the second you crack it open,
Mm-hmm. I'm actually really excited for the Von Freeze one, mostly because Mr. Freeze is one of my favorite Batman villains. So I like that we're getting some stuff for him that's not just Schwarzeneggery.
Right. So, yes, he was not. That was not an ideal presentation of Mr. Freeze. So, speaking of Batman number 83. Now we have two more issues after this of the Tom King era is coming to a close. Of course, as we've had a really hot Batman a few months ago, where Alfred saw his demise.
Again.
Right, again. And so here we have. We got to the point where almost Tom King was letting Batman have that moment of comeuppance with Bane where he broke Bane's back, which would be like an incredible turn of events. But he didn't give it to us, so a little bit of a Batman 50 situation. But here we have the beginning of a major battle between Thomas Wayne and Bruce Wayne for all the marbles. So I've read through it when they were stocking the shelves. Really cool issue. I've kind of liked this run of Batman, even though a lot of fans think Detective is like the better Batman right now. I count myself on the other side of that equation.
Yeah, you and I stand on different sides of that line, my friend.
Yeah, you like the detective stuff better?
I really do like the detective stuff because I like Batman as a detective. Like that's my favorite kind of Batman. I like Batman solving the mystery and resolving the crime and interacting with the rogues gallery without it being one big Batman vengeance plot after another. Not all Batman needs to be Hush.
Right, I get it, and that's fair enough. On the more, I don't know, Friday After Dark segment this week,
The titillating side.
we have Money Shot 2. Now, this title, gratuitous title and all, but this could have been any number of things. I had no idea what to expect. I think of it.
I don't think you were expecting what it was.
I think of it as sort of like if Tina Fey was acting in Bomb Queens. So it's more of a humor title. It doesn't really have like a lot of like gratuitous nudity or anything. It's not sort of like a PG-13 soft R kind of title.
It's an American Pie kind of comic.
Right. So the last issue we had a number of variant covers. I don't know if they're out this in force this time. Were there bagged editions or anything of this?
There were some bagged covers, if I remember correctly from my ordering. But most of the people who have those, it's already kind of tucked away.
Already tucked away. Yeah. So anyway, so number 2 is out. So the other title is Safe Sex.
Yeah, you mean six.
Yeah, a lot easier to say it this way.
Yeah, significantly, but it is technically supposed to be like SFSX.
Now this one I think actually has a really cool cover. If you actually lived in an area where you had analog media and you're trying to get your Friday After Dark on, you'd have to go to a special store or something to rent that, and that's what that looks like. Inside, it's definitely R-rated. Also has a pretty sketchy back cover joke thing going on.
It is decidedly a cover that most shops are probably going to keep bagged and boarded
on
their display and taped, and like they'll hear the tape open and like somebody's going to vault over the counter at you to be like, "Hold on, how old are you?"
Right, and then you're going to leave in a brown paper bag, and you're going to get into your car and hope nobody sees you.
Yeah, you're gonna just kind of like tuck it away under the seat and lie about where you were that day.
Right. You need to have that separate compartment in that sock drawer. Is all I'm saying. But anyway, that was supposed to be a Vertigo title, wasn't it?
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that everything that happened with the whole Vertigo thing, I actively mentally purged everything I thought was going to come out for Vertigo because there were so many things that were just canceled and not picked up by anybody or anything that I just was kind of like, well, deleted because I never want to feel that pain.
Yeah, I actually think it was, which blows my mind that they would have put that out. But being an Image title, they can do anything they want, a la Sex Criminals. Now you have a title that you're going to be following that I'm really interested in too, because I love Maria Llovet. So
there is a title that came out that I've been really, really excited for, and it's very rare that I get like super jazzed about titles coming out before they come out. Normally it's I read the first one, I'm like, oh yay, but this one I've actually been like really excited for. It's called Heartbeat, and also the variant cover is incredibly gorgeous, so like
Mir Kandolf.
It's so good. But anyway, Heartbeat is a comic book that is about this girl who's a little bit of an edgelord, so just be prepared for that. Who gets really interested in this boy at her school, and she finds out, spoiler alert for the ending of the first issue.
He's a nice boy?
He's not a nice boy. He really loves the taste of blood and straight up murders people to taste it. Now, he's not so far, I don't think he's a vampire. I think he's just psycho. And so because she likes him so much, she's going down that rabbit hole with him to get him to like her, and it's just twisted. And I'm super excited for this title because I'm a big horror, dark fantasy stuff, and this is really intense morning glories, and I really loved that title.
Given the level of violence in there, is this title Bree approved?
Bree wouldn't be super crazy about this title, but I think the kind of dark storyline, I think she'd like it. I just think there might be occasional moments where she'd be like, Alex, why am I reading this?
Oodles and oodles of viscera in that one.
I mean, it's a lot of blood. It's not quite like Jack the Ripper levels or anything. But it is a little gross.
All right, so this episode's taking a dark turn. All right, let's get into the number ones, and we won't start with the kid titles because that would be cruel.
just take a hard left turn with where we were.
He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, coming out. Mm-hmm. Flip through this, and I couldn't believe how much I missed He-Man. And this is the Skeletor cover because Skeletor is my dude.
See, the problem is that I'm at the age where He-Man is 90% memes. So, like, trying to, like, take He-Man seriously, something I'm excited to do, but it's got to be a gear shift, because I'm so used to the what's going on, like, internet video.
Say, I have experienced He-Man in the plastic, where you have to take his arms off and put them on other characters. That was, like, what He-Man was.
Why would you do that, though? Why was that, like, the thing?
Because they had like little pegs that kept them on. They weren't
I'm
like,
not
it didn't
asking
break
how
the
you did it,
character.
I'm asking
No, I'm just saying,
why.
but because you could. I mean, that was like pretty much their main mode of articulation, is that those two limbs came off.
I'm going to tell you right now, there is a problem in toy design when their main articulation is breaking their arms off of their body.
Well, they also had this like battle damage He-Man, where if you tapped its chest, it had like sword cuts, and it had like 2 or 3 different sword cuts, and that was like, and also they had one that smelled bad, Stinkor.
So the other titles that have come out this week, one of which is going to be Glow versus Babyface. This is going to be a spin-off title of the Wrestling Glow comic, which is a
Gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
Which is a spin-off, I think, of a TV show. If I remember correctly, as somebody who doesn't watch an immense amount of television, I remember that this was made off of a TV show. So this is the spin-off of the spin-off.
Right, from Image, you have Heart Attack, #1. Equal rights for variants, equal rights for all. On the back. Very interesting.
It took me a second, because I remember that is actually like the name of like what the metahumans are in that title. For a second, I thought they were talking about like comic variants, and I was like, are there people who are rallying against variants? Is that other than me?
There are people.
Other than me.
Well, they should say it's equal prices for variants.
Oh god, yeah,
right.
you can
Forget
fight
that.
that fight all day.
All right.
You were talking about this one being something you were kind of jazzed for.
Yeah, so Olympia, a kid, his favorite comic book character, crashes into life, and but he brings a whole bunch of evil with it. This is very interesting. It's dedicated to the creator's father. It's got, it's sort of, you know, if you're a fan of comics and you just really are part of that culture, and it brings you a sense of nostalgia, I think you're going to find something, at least in the first issue, of interest. It's a kind of a very sentimental approach to storytelling. So that, you know, that's for people. It's also a key collector comic, hot comic of the week.
So, question: if your favorite superhero crashed into Earth, how bad of a situation would it be?
Well, I would imagine it'd be really bad, because, you know, I would imagine anybody with superpowers would, you know, basically render everything that we have to keep our society together moot.
I mean, yeah, I too have watched Brightburn.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine. I mean, who's your favorite superhero?
Literally neither of them are superheroes. If we're talking about like my favorite like Marvel characters, because like I rotate who I like, but most of my favorite characters like Gwenpool and Batgirl don't have powers, so It would have just been like there's another person just kind of hanging out that's probably a little crazy. Now if we're going like Quentin Quire
like
from X-Men,
like a really good cosplayer.
Yeah, it'd be. But if like Quentin Quire from X-Men came in, we'd be in for a lot of problems, significant problems.
Yeah, I mean, I like Golden Gale from Black Hammer.
Oh gosh.
But she's like a, you know, 60, 70-year-old lady in a girl's body who can't change back to her adult self, and I don't know if she'd be very happy, and who knows what she'd do. She'd probably just be at the bar and drink all the time.
So pretty much all of us like hashtag sad boys that would not really cause a whole lot of mischief.
Yes, but I'm sure there's some Magneto fans out there, and that would not be a good day in the city. There's 2099, #1.
I think this is the 2099 Alpha.
Yeah, 2099 Alpha, yeah.
Yep.
So that's a meme come to life. 90s comics. Annihilation Scourge Alpha, #1.
It's gonna be a lot of alphas.
As we were saying earlier, Absolute Carnage, Captain Marvel. Also, Deadpool, #1. You might have heard of this guy. Hat tip to Rob Liefeld. Fantastic Four, 2099.
It's going to be a lot of 2099 stuff that's going to be coming out.
And some indies. We got Dark Tales from the Voxiverse. Okay. For the youngies, we got Archie and Friends Travel. Shapes.
This one is not a kid title. I want to be very clear. You started it, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's not a kid title?
It might be. I'm trying to remember, because there was one that was coming out in the next couple of weeks, and I don't know if it was this one or another one that looked... Okay, no, this one is the fine one. There were two that were very similar, and one of them I was like, no. this is the fine one.
Unless you don't want your kids knowing what cell phones are, I think this year, okay. On that one.
Keep it hidden, keep it secret.
Yes, maybe not a kid title here. Machine Girl.
Given that there is somebody who's literally getting kicked into alarmingly pink blood, it's probably a little. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, it's that's not something I would give to a child.
You want to give that to a child?
Probably not. No.
Yeah, I mean you.
I mean, look, you live your best life, man. I'm just.
You do you. All right, well, that wraps it up for this week. Before we go, I'll have a really cool comic to give away on our site. We're going to give away Venom #1, 90s Comics, Return. This is, I never in a million years would have thought people would have really glommed onto this title like they have, but Venom #1 is really a hot title.
I mean, Venom overall has been incredibly increasing in popularity, like to the point, and especially because like a lot of younger readers are starting to get really into Venom. So it's a lot of times I have to redirect. I'd be like, hey, read this specific Venom title, not this Venom title.
Yeah, I was in 11th grade when this title came out.
Really?
I bought this when it was brand new. Did you get this, Hubert? Yeah.
You should have told everybody that that was the exact one that you had, and you just kept it in really beautiful shape.
No, I didn't keep it in beautiful shape. I think I gave it to my brother. It probably ended up like, who knows what he did with it. But anyway, it's a CGC 9.6, Venom #1. It's a beautiful holographic cover. Relive the 90s. It was a good time for comics. But now's an even better time for comics. And that'll wrap it up for this week. Come stop by the shop if you're in the Richmond area. Buy comics, buy all the hit comics and all the indie titles. Alpha Comics goes to great lengths to bring you a variety of titles, not just the ones you would see on your small newsstand. So that a lot of independent creators get their start, not in online. So I look forward to seeing your reactions, your comments, give us some feedback, and you think we missed it. You're going to read, you don't know about it, but you know it too. So for Comic Week, I'm Charles.
And I'm Alex from Alpha Comics.
We'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.